Welcome to Uniting the Cults. I want to talk about the moral mistakes of the Quran. And the reason I want to talk about it is I've come to realize that people focus way too much on the the way that the Quran contradicts nature, uh, and how people don't focus enough on how the Quran contradicts morality. Um, uh, I've noticed that uh, ex-Muslims or people in the middle of doubting Muslims, when they're um, like trying to get help from ex-Muslims about the struggle they're having in their heads about Islam, what I've noticed is that they try to examine how the Quran contradicts nature, and what the way the words they use is how the Quran is unscientific. Um, and what I've noticed is when I talk to these people and I try to focus on the morality, they tell me they don't care about the morality. Not in those words. They don't say those words. They tell me you can't use morality to to show that Islam is wrong. You can't use morality to prove Islam wrong. And their logic is working something like uh, first, you have to judge Islam on a certain set of merits. And the way they're thinking is, and they use the word science, but they really mean nature. And once you believe in Islam, now you follow all of its morals unthinkingly. And the way I say the reason I say it this way is you have to be unthinking in order to do the evil things that that Islam tells you to do. Uh, so what I'm trying to do with this video and a lot of my work is get people to understand and have confidence that yes, you can refute Islam by its morals. You don't have to rely on finding contradictions that between what the Quran says about nature and then what our physicists say about nature. And I want to add to this that when we are arguing about the morality, that is science. The scientific approach, the methods of science, the methods that physicists use are the same methods that we should be using to judge morality. So, for example, um, one of the big things that physicists do is we don't want any contradictions and we root them out. We try to look for them. When we see one, we recognize there's a flaw somewhere. We reject any theory that we see a contradiction in. And there's many kinds of contradictions. The one that people think about and they don't even know it as a contradiction. They think, okay, so physics theory makes some predictions about nature, and then you run an experiment to check to see if it actually make that prediction comes true, and then if it doesn't come true, well, that's a contradiction because it makes a prediction that doesn't happen. It's a contradiction between that theory and reality, the way we understood it from the data that we collected. So something basic, uh, you know, so morality, you want to think about it like a scientist. So if a theory claims to be perfect, like Islam does, and then you find a single flaw, well, the whole theory is done now. And a flaw would be a moral flaw or moral idea, an evil inside of Islam constitutes a flaw. And one way to look at it is we know what is good independent of Islam. We do it all the time. The way we treat each other, the way our governments run, and I don't know, maybe if you're in one of those, if you're in Mauritania or something, but you have the internet, you can look at the rest of the world. You know how the rest of the world is working. I'm guessing you see some good in other places that, let's say, doesn't exist in your country, or not much. So, for example, slavery. Um, in the past, almost every culture was okay with it, or maybe I don't know how many cultures are. And today, there's not one country that hasn't outlawed it. Even all the Islamic countries outlawed it, and Islam was for slavery. So all the countries in the world today got rid of this thing in Islam. The Prophet Muhammad himself had slaves, and all of these countries deviated from that tradition. Islam has rules around how to treat your slaves. That's admitting that slaves are okay. We have to throw away all those rules now. Slaves are not allowed. That's an admission that Islam is wrong on this moral issue. And this is scientific thinking. And everyone needs to stop thinking that science means physics or nature. Science is a method of reason. And yes, they do well getting into empirical matters. But their methods work well anywhere. That's it.